Hi everyone, Donna here. I'm finally trying to broadcast again, and I apologize, I am still not well. I have been flat on my back, practically, doing as little as possible for the past 2 or 3 days, and I am just still not quite well yet. But I'm pretty hopeful that by Monday I will be back to 100%. So here's hoping. And I'm really thankful that I've been working from home for the most part, because that means that I don't risk getting any of my colleagues sick, especially since I think some of them are the ones that gave this to me. So my son says that he brought it back from Jamboree. I am from the Boy Scout National Jamboree that he went to. I'm not convinced of that. It was going around the office right about the time that I started really requesting to work remotely. So it could be my son, it could be my colleagues, and this is one of the reasons I really like working from home. Love you guys. If many of my colleagues are watching it, it's not anything other than good fun. It's all good. I am really excited. Of course I'm really excited. I'm always excited, even if I can't talk. Excuse me. And it's going to take a little bit, hopefully not as long as usual. I keep thinking I'm well, and then I get up and I walk around and I get a little bit lightheaded and I realize I'm not well yet. So I'm glad that I do most of my work at a desk. Excuse me. It's just, the other thing is that I feel pretty good, and then I start talking and I realize how awful I sound. My ears are still kind of stopped up. So hopefully I've gotten over the flu for the whole season, and I'm going to make it through the winter with no problems. So let's look on the bright side. I got this done and out of the way early. Oh, excuse me. So if I can get through this, I wanted to talk a little bit about focusing when you're working remotely. The interesting thing is, it's kind of interesting to work when there's nobody else around. There's no one at the water cooler. There's no one to kind of redirect you back to what you need to do. You have to do that for yourself. Now, working from home is by far my preference. I've homeschooled my 2 youngest kids, ones that are still living at home. I am so sorry, you guys. Maybe I should have called this off, but 2 days midweek with no show I thought was plenty. My 2 youngest kids were homeschooled up until 9th or 10th grade. They will be in school this year at their request, so it's worked out really well for us. I've been able to be home when they were home, and now that they're choosing to go to school to make it through high school to prepare themselves for my 16-year-old daughter wants to be a surgeon, and I'm really proud of her for that. I just can't even tell you how proud I am of that. She wants to be a trauma surgeon. She's decided on that, and she is very much one of those people that kind of, you know, my 14-year-old son got in a little bike wreck several weeks ago and had to have stitches, and she was one going, "Doc, can I watch? Can I help? Can I suture this? If you watch me, can I suture this?" And no fear of blood, no concern, just, you know, I mean, not no concern, but she would. Lots of people are don't do well at the sight of blood. That does not run in my family, by the way. One of my brothers is a soldier. The other one is at least an EMT. I don't think he's a paramedic. He might be. He's a firefighter. He used to try to gross me out with that EMT manual, and they show some really horrific stuff in it. But anyway, and my son, my 14-year-old son, wants to be an engineer, and so they have to go to college in order to pursue those particular dreams. It doesn't mean, by the way, I don't think college is 100% necessary for a lot of things that we think college is necessary for. I am starting school myself in September to finish my accounting degree. It's going to be double, excuse me, accounting and business management. And then as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to be doing my MBA and sitting my CPA exam. So Y'all, I am so sorry. I didn't realize that still had this tickle. So anyway, it's really becoming necessary for me to learn how to focus, or maybe relearn how to focus. I've mentioned before that I have at least a little bit of ADHD. I have, of course, learned to work around it quite a bit. You know, by learning kind of techniques that you know, like the Pomodoro technique to kind of keep me on track. I just can do anything for 15 or 25 minutes. You know, various things like that that just help me focus. And another thing that I've learned is to maximize the times when I'm most creative. Now, accounting's not necessarily, although it can be, if you're doing it wrong, a creative endeavor. Although, you know, sometimes some of our clients want to make sure that it is when maybe it shouldn't be. I am going to keep this short today. Y'all don't need to listen to me coughing. But it is important to be focused on it. And I am absolutely passionate about helping small businesses grow and meet their full potential, whatever that may be. Now, not every small businessman wants their business to be the next Microsoft. I mean, not everyone wants that. Some people just want a business that's going to take care of themselves and their family until they retire, and then that will leave them enough money for retirement. Other people want to have something substantial to be able to sell to fund their retirement. So they're looking for growth, but not necessarily for themselves. It just really did. I mean, I have heard. I'm still not sure if I agree with this or not, but I have heard it said that in business you always have an exit plan to sell or to close. And that may not be next week, but you always kind of have an exit plan. I'm not sure that that's really what a lot of people are thinking about when they go into business. I think a lot of people are thinking, I'm going to go into business because I don't like working for the jerk that I'm working for, and so I'm going to go work for a real idiot, which is myself. And it's me as much as anyone else. And then I'm going to have to figure out everything to do with the business, and hopefully I will have something left over to help other people and to help my family achieve our goals. Beyond that, I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just thinking about, you know, this is how much money I need to make to pay my bills. This is how much money I need to make for growth. This is how much I need to invest in advertising. And I'm not focused on, well, I need to sell at some point in the future. It's not something I really think about. Whether I should or shouldn't is a whole other matter, and as I study business management, I guess we'll find out. So since I'm sick, and since I'm working from home, the primary topic today, and of course I'm rambling because I'm sick, because I'm not focusing very well, is how to focus when there's no one to make you focus. You know, we all have those things. I was at the auto repair shop that I do a lot of work for this morning, and the owner was there, and he was constantly, you know, kind of teasing, kind of not, get to work to the guys. You know, go get to work. Donna's here working. You need to go get to work. And I would kind of chuckle and go along with it because they're really wonderful guys. Edgemont Auto Service, I can't recommend them highly enough. They've got 2 locations in Provo. One on Canyon Road and one on 300 South. So if you have any problems with your car, take them to Edgemont Auto Service in Provo. And no, they did not ask me to do that. They're just wonderful guys. But it was just I was just kind of laughing because the owner was just going, you guys need to get back to work. You need to get back to work. And I thought, I'm going to go home in a little bit. And it's quiet at my house. My kids are at the water park with their friends. I don't have to pick them up for another couple of hours. There's no one here but me. And there's nobody here to say, Donna, get back to work. Get off of Facebook. Not that I've been on Facebook very much, but it's just something that I've been thinking about. That does seem to be that, and I've been reading this book called Deep Work, and it is by Cal, I want to say Newport, and he is a professor, and he talks about, you know, he has to produce so many papers peer-reviewed papers. I mean, this isn't something he can dash off in an afternoon. It has to be based on his research. It has to be based on, he has to do the research to back it up. He has to really, really focus on this for, a while. And to produce 1 or 2 papers a year is probably about what most professors do. They either publish or perish is kind of their byword. You have to produce papers, and they have to be peer reviewed, so they have to be, the science has to stand up. And he needed to produce 4 papers per, I don't remember if it was per academic year or per academic semester, but he decided that that's what he was going to do. And he started talking about shallow work versus deep work. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting because a lot of what we do is shallow work. It is dashing off a quick response to an email that might not even need to be sent. And I was thinking about it, and and some of it's necessary and some of it's not. And I think it needs to be to the individual person to decide what's valuable. And he talks about cost-benefit analysis. For example, some of his colleagues are not on Facebook or Twitter. I am on Facebook, obviously, because some of you are watching me on Facebook, but I'm not on Twitter, and I'm not on Twitter because I felt like the cost of actually being on Twitter to my peace of mind, to my, I've talked before about how easy it is to just dash off some nasty, snarky remark in 140 characters or less that can really hurt people. And how I hate seeing that, especially in a business atmosphere. And I've seen it happen quite a lot. It really, really bothers me. And so I really prefer email for communications, because I feel like when you sit down to write an email, it's a little bit more formal. You're not just going to dash something off. And, you're going to, hopefully, you're going to think about it a little bit more. You have more space to write what you want to say. There's more space to explain yourself. There's still very much an opportunity to be misunderstood because it's a written medium. And so if you're not careful with your words, it can be very, you can be misunderstood. I'm going to be better by Monday, one way or another. And I hate this because I hardly ever eat or drink when I'm doing these videos. So he's got colleagues that have no Facebook and no Twitter presence at all. And the reason is that it actually costs them to be on Facebook or Twitter because they're doing the deep work. They are, one of them is he mentioned a New York Times writer that the social media desk keeps after her to go be on Twitter. And so she'll go and she'll put a link up to one of her articles, And the reason is that this person is out interviewing the people that they need to interview for the next big article. They don't have time for it. You have to kind of pick and choose where you're going to spend your time. Now, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. And for a lot of reasons, I decided to spend at least some of that in videos talking to you. And I've also decided that I want to spend some of that growing my business. There's a little bit of a revenge factor there. And that I want to spend some of that time working with clients. The time is going to come very quickly, I hope, if everything lines up the way I want it, that I'm going to be choosing not to spend as much time working with clients and more time working on my business. But I will still be very invested in what my business is doing, what my bookkeepers are doing, and how my clients are being treated. So how do you focus when you're working from home and there's no one here to remind you to focus? Well, you have to do it yourself. It's kind of a trick. I've learned a few little tricks. One is there's a lot of videos on YouTube that are binaural beats, or they're subliminals that emphasize focus. And you can just go on YouTube and you can Google, focus, and it's a white noise or pink noise. or brown noise. I don't even know why they assign these colors to noise, but it's just something to kind of tune out the rest of the world. And in fact, my kids will tell you that if I am sitting here with my earphones in, if I have my headset on, and I am sitting here and I have both earbuds in, you do not bother me. I am focused. I am deep. I am in flow. And regardless of the fact that I'm sitting right here, it doesn't mean I'm really here. And I've just found that seems to work really well for me to get into the deep. And sometimes it's not very deep work because, some of it's just data entry. It's just kind of cruising along, entering some of this information. And other times, the client I was working on this afternoon is a much more in-depth client, and so I really need the ability to focus to try to figure out what the historical payments were, if these bills should even be in the software. It's just kind of, it's a big mess, and so I really have to focus on it. And then another technique that I like to use is the Pomodoro technique. I have an app on my computer called Focus Booster that when I struggle to focus, sometimes it happens, I will actually put my phone away. Why? Because it's very easy to distract myself with Facebook and email and all the other little things on here that even though I have them right here on my computer, I'll pick up my smartphone and start messing around with it just because I'm bored. The trick is that boredom is not a bad thing. When I was a kid, and I kind of hesitate because I don't like to date myself, I would prefer everyone assume that I'm like 25, even though I'm not. When I was a kid, I remember going into the backyard of our house, and of course this was pre-internet. We had a phone that was tied to the wall, and when it rang, there was no way to know who it was until you went to pick it up. That's how old I am. We had a little bitty clubhouse. We had a swing set. We had a long, narrow lot, really. So we had our main backyard, and we had a trampoline. We had a tetherball court, and then we had a detached garage. And then behind that was where the magic happened. Behind that was things like a cedar tree that had fallen over and the trunks were growing up this way. That was my pirate ship. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that I would go back there when I was bored. And I would delve into my imagination. That's where I was a rock star. That's where I was a private princess. That's where I was whatever the heck I was that day. That's where the magic really happened, and that came out of being bored. Today, I find myself almost, I don't know if it's so much a fear of being bored, because I'm really not afraid to be bored. I go out hiking, and I don't take any, sometimes I don't take electronics with me, sometimes I do. And I will go out there and I will just sit with nothing, with no music, with no smartphone, with just me and the sound of the birds. And in a lot of ways, that's the most creative time that I can possibly spend. Sometimes I'll go out there with a pen and pencil and just start writing down my thoughts. What does this have to do with focusing when you're working from home? Well, the very first thing you have to learn is how to be bored. Maybe that's why I should have titled this, How to Be Bored. It's easy in today's world. I mean, today I have books on Google Play. I probably have 2,500 books between Google Play and Kindle. And I'm thinking about opening another Google account so I can put more books on that one, because they limit you to 1,000. I have so much to do and so much to read and so much to study and so much, and of course I'm telling you I'm going back to school, so I'm putting even more on my plate. And the lovely thing is the school is all online and it is competency based, so I can move as quickly as I want to. As soon as I can pass the class, I am out and moving on to the next class. It's going to be such a breeze. Either that or it's going to be such a nightmare. One of the two. But if you learn to be bored, and it's hard to be bored in today's world because we have so much stuff. I go everywhere and I have access to all of the media on my computer. I have access to Netflix. I have access to movies. I have access to my Comcast account. I have access to everything. There's no need for me to be bored anymore. And yet, if I had had all this when I was a kid, I would never have learned the power of my imagination. The reason I'm bringing this up, I know there's a reason. The reason I'm bringing this up is in order to learn to focus, you first have to learn that it's okay to be bored. Sometimes we get the distractions that come from people coming up and talking to us. That's where my earbuds come in. I have used headphones or earbuds or something like that to tune out the outside world, the outside noise for... it was actually my very first job in corporate America. I would start bringing in headphones and Walkman and stuff like that, and the boss would come in and she would say, well, that's distracting. And I would say, no, listening to all of you in here is distracting. I worked in a bullpen. I said, you guys are distracting. This is helping me focus. And I would listen to Mozart and Beethoven and stuff. Ironically, if it has lyrics to it, I start thinking about the lyrics. So I would listen to classical music or movie soundtracks, or today I'm listening to the Star Trek movie soundtracks and Avengers soundtracks and stuff like that. Because there's no lyrics to distract me. I can focus. Or I would put on white noise, or pink noise, brown noise. I don't know what the difference is. Just so I didn't have to hear what the girl behind me was saying, what the girl in front of me was saying, what the girl to the left of me was saying. Fortunately, there was a wall to the left and there was a girl to the right. And I mean, it was incredibly distracting to me to sit there with all of these people around me who all wanted to talk to me when I was trying to work. So I would put my headphones on and they would actually have to come up to me and tap me on the shoulder to tell me it was time to go to break. I've worked through lunch because I was so focused on what I was doing that time didn't matter. So I think the trick, first of all, don't be afraid to be bored. Boredom's not a bad thing. And the second thing is to find a way of tuning out the outside world. Now again, I'm at least somewhat ADHD. My youngest sister says I'm highly ADHD. I don't know. I'm probably never, ever, ever going to get that diagnosis. I don't really care. I've learned how to reach my potential without being diagnosed, I guess. What I do care about is learning those skills. The first thing for me is I can't have people around. If someone wants me to focus deeply on what I'm supposed to be doing, I need the door shut. I need the music on. I need to tune out the outside world. At the same time, I don't want people to come talk to me. I want to be able to tune out their noise, but I do like to know that they're there. The best working environment I ever had was at my last position. My best friend's office, I had the office next door to him, and I could hear him through the wall talking. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could hear his voice. It was just kind of like this rumble. And I would have the door closed, and that was like the perfect work environment. There were people around, but they weren't asking for my attention until he got excited and wanted to come talk to me. He was around, but he wasn't. It wasn't like having kids wanting me every few minutes. My work wasn't being interrupted as often. But it wasn't like the bullpen where I absolutely had to have something drowning everybody else out, or I was not as productive. Ironic thing about that job where I worked in the bullpen was that I ended up being so good at my job that I made my colleagues mad. And I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Sorry, Katie, not sorry. My take on that is if you're doing your job right you don't have to worry about what I'm doing. That's kind of how I saw it. And if you can't keep up, you can't keep up. So those are just some of my tricks for focusing. The big thing is to remember what you're supposed to be doing. And a lot like meditation, by the way, when you meditate, the kind of meditation I will do things like I'll focus on a candle flame, or I will do the fire finger, where you put your fingers like this together and you focus on these fingers, the pressure. That's all you're really thinking on. Or you focus on your breath. When you do yoga, they'll tell you to focus on your breath. And I have a hard time focusing on breath, but I can focus on my fingers, or I can focus on a candle flame. And you empty your mind. And if you have thoughts come through, and you will have thoughts come through, the trick is to not stop and go, oh, that's right, I do need to take out the garbage. It's to go, okay, thank you for coming. Going back to what I was doing. Oh, and another trick that I do use for focus is when I do have these nagging thoughts of, okay, I got to take out the garbage, I've got to empty the dishwasher, and I've got to go take Jared for his eye exam, or whatever it is that is nagging at me, and I'm not going to be able to focus until I do something about it. I'll put it in my to-do list. I'll write it down. And then I can kind of tell my brain, it's okay. It's going to be handled. It's on the list. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore. You find these little tips and tricks, and before too long, I can actually accomplish more in less time than most people. The trick again is to manage your interruptions. I've mentioned this before, I think, and I keep saying I'm going to get to the end, but I'm kind of on the groove now. I manage my interruptions. There's some interruptions I cannot help. If someone calls and they want bookkeeping services, of course I'm going to talk to them. I did subscribe to the Verizon caller ID because it identifies potential spam, and I can weed those out. But if it just comes up with a name or a city and it doesn't say that it's spammy, I will answer it. And it doesn't matter what else I'm doing. That's something that's important enough, because I also have to do the sales. I'm a one-woman show at the moment. It's important enough that I will just answer it. The catch, though, is when you do that, it does take a minute to get back to what you were doing. If you allow yourself to be distracted, there is a switching cost. Dave Crenshaw is a friend of mine. He does write about time management, and he talks about the switching cost. It's impossible to multitask. So when you work on something, you need to work on it with 100% of your attention, which is unbelievably difficult. I'm going to call it good for tonight. I don't want to keep coughing in front of you, so you guys have a wonderful weekend. I am excited to at least be somewhat on the mend, although I think I'm going to spend the weekend more or less in bed. And I will look forward to talking to you and sounding much better on Monday. Have a